Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In my first video, I briefly touched on post-nominal credentials. It might seem trivial to most, but there actually is a particular sequence and manner in which a nurse should display their credentials. I have seen many profiles on LinkedIn with a nurse's credential listed somewhat haphazardly, which I feel detracts from their professionalism. It's a minor subject, but important enough that I felt it deserved its own video. I have never heard anyone else teach on this topic, so I thought I would help you all out and offer some guidance. There are no formal regulations on how to display your credentials, but one of the most widely recognized certification organizations, the American Nurses Credentialing Center, or ANCC, has published some recommendations to help standardize the way we present our qualifications. Standardization helps to ensure that others, including nurses, healthcare providers, consumers, third-party payers, and government officials, all understand the significance and value of our credentials. So generally, a nurse's credentials are listed from the most permanent to the least permanent. They are separated by commas and do not contain periods in between letters. As per the ANCC, the preferred order of credentials is your highest earned degree, licensure, state designations or requirements, national certifications, awards and honors, and other recognitions. As you can see, an academic degree is the most quote-unquote permanent, as it never expires nor can it be taken away. Next is a nurse's licensure and state designations, which are required for a nurse to practice. National certifications are sometimes voluntary, but awards, honors, and other recognitions are always voluntary. Educational degrees include the spectrum of all nursing degrees: doctoral, master's, bachelor's, and associate degree. Licensure includes RN and LPN or LVN. State designations or requirements recognize the authority of an RN to practice at a more advanced level. Those with an APRN designation would list their credential here. National certifications are awarded by a certifying body and listed next. Please note this does not include skill certifications like ACLS, PALS, BLS, etc. Awards and honors recognize outstanding achievements in nursing. Most commonly, this is the FAAN. This prestigious designation indicates a nurse has been inducted as a fellow of the American Academy of Nursing. Lastly, other certifications include non-nursing certifications that recognize additional skills. For example, a nurse who also possesses an EMT certification. Now let's look at some examples. This is probably a very standard presentation for many nurses. Another very common alternative is to list your RN before your degree. I'm not exactly sure why this version is so prevalent, but that is how most nurses listed their credentials back when I was a new nurse, and I have just kept it that way since. I have a few theories as to why this exists, but I will spare you my speculation. Despite this deviating from the recommendations, it is still so prevalent that I feel it is an acceptable alternative. Now for some more nuanced examples. For those with advanced nursing degrees, you may omit the lower degree. It is somewhat redundant since in most cases you needed the lower degree as a prerequisite for the higher degree. However, if you possess a relevant non-nursing degree such as an MBA or MHA, you may choose to list that first. You only list multiple degrees if they are from different disciplines. Earlier, I mentioned it is fairly reasonable to list the RN before the degree. However, I probably wouldn't do that if you're listing 2 or more academic degrees. That's just my opinion. I feel like it looks weird to list it as RN, MBA, MSN because you're splitting apart the 2 nursing-related credentials. With that said, I'm going to contradict myself right now. If you possess a doctoral degree in nursing and a lower degree in a related field, you should list the doctoral degree first, even if it splits the nursing credentials. Moving on to certifications, some nurses do obtain certification in multiple specialties. You may list them in whatever order you prefer, but consider listing them in order of relevance to your practice or in the reverse order in which they were obtained, meaning list the most recent one first. Let's say a nurse who works in the ICU and is certified in both critical care and progressive care, they should ideally list their critical care certification first. For me personally, because I have a little OCD, I like to list mine alphabetically on my resume. Let's look at some examples of credentials that are a bit jumbled. According to our guidelines/recommendations, how can we make these people's credentials look a little more professional? Here, we can omit the BSN, move the RN into the second spot, then list the certifications, assuming the PHN is less relevant. Here, we should place the 2 master's degrees to the front with the non-nursing degree first. Then we should list the RN license, and lastly, the FNP designation. This one is mostly correct, but the ANCC suggests listing the license before the advanced practice designation. But I imagine many CRNAs just omit the RN for simplicity. Here, this person should list the JD, then the BSN, followed by their RN license, then their board certifications, again assuming the PHN is the certification of lesser importance. Hopefully you're starting to get a grasp on how to correctly display your credentials. Now that you understand the how, I want to discuss the when. When choosing to list your credentials, I believe nurses should cater to their audience. I think it's absolutely appropriate to list your entire set of credentials on your resume, on an academic syllabus, or in professional publications. For things like an email signature, business card, visual presentations, or even a badge buddy, you should just list the relevant credentials. For example, I did not list my MP credential in my email signature while I was still working as a staff RN because it wasn't relevant to my job at the time. I would also contend that nurses who work exclusively in a hospital don't really need to display their irrelevant public health certification. I know you want to make it look longer, but try to remain relevant to the given situation and audience. Finally, for chart documentation or apparel like scrubs or lab coats, I think you should only display your role, such as RN or NP or CRNA, etc. Chart auditors don't care about the 20 letters after your name. They just need to know what your legal job role is. Likewise, with patients, don't confuse them by including your degree and other certifications. They don't know what any of that means. My scrub jacket only has my name and NP after it. I don't even write ACNP because that's not as well known to the public. One other consideration, if you embroider a certification on, let's say, a jacket, and you let that certification lapse, you can't wear that jacket anymore. It's prohibited for you to display a credential to the public that you no longer have active. It may seem trivial, but you can get into some serious trouble. So if you really want to display that you are a certified nurse, I'd recommend just using a cheap badge buddy that you can easily remove if your certification lapses. I hope I was able to help you better understand how to properly show off your postnominal credentials. If you found this video useful, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching, and I hope you will join me in my next video.